In today's episode of Is It IMBA or Do I Suck, we have the slowest sieging tank on all of YouTube, the worst excuse for a barcode heard by all of mankind, and well, not the greatest micro against Splash, but at least the form is a beauty. Enjoy! To Mr. Harstem. In this game, in this every race ought to be equals game, I felt contrast. Disparity is there. As long as each race have their own imbalance, it is not the imbalance of the game. But please tell me, how can I win the race with Psionic Mastery, a real Protoss? In this, Zealots born with armor can be warped to the front in 18-second game. Why there is a race that has to accept the excess price of power? Withstand 10 damage before starting to exchange that just passable DPS. It's talking about a Marine here needing to stim before getting good damage output. And losing all your flexibility to exchange 13 range. Talking about the tank needing to siege up before it gets to very long range. And here our complaint form continues with, effort is a lie. The person with effort and gift still lose is the irresistible proof. Now, I personally have no clue what this means. The vileness and conspiracy is the weapon of weak. I know there is no chance about win Protoss by equal engagement, so I chose to accelerate expansion. When I found out he doesn't have the awareness of finishing this game immediately, I planned a war of attrition. But when I realized how is this game going on, his zealots already destroyed my troops because of the existence of observers and psionic mastery. My raid was stillborn. I chose to chase a powerful army. Unfortunately, even Terran can have a close troops with Protoss. It is still a flower in the mirror. Cannot be more than a vulnerable wish. Please tell me, am I suck? Or does Terran suck? P.S. My TvZ and PvZ win rate is around 30%. But it is no exaggeration to say that if there is only TvT in ladder, I could be 4.5k MMR. Now that last line is a bit confusing because he mentions TvZ and PvZ. So either he's a race switcher and he never plays against TOS, according to his last line, but he's complaining about TOS with Terran, so I assume he meant to say TVP there, as well as to say that if it was only mirror matchups, this dude would be 4.5k MMR. Right now, he's 3.9 on the Korean ladder. And the name, now this is an interesting little detail here. The name is Bobfish, but his friend changed his name to a barcode. All right? Let's just keep that in mind for a little bit. As we're going to figure out if Protoss indeed is imbalanced or if he sucks. So here we go with the bottom right side player, our red Protoss. And the top left, Bobfish, whose friend changed his name to a barcode. This excuse is about as good as your dog eating your homework. I don't give this a very high rating when it comes to the excuses. It's like a 2 out of 5, you know? This is fairly low on the ladder. If your teacher believes this crap, it's okay, Bobfish. You know, you play like a bit of an idiot and you were afraid of other people on the ladder figuring out that you have it's not just that he plays as a general idiot. I think Bobfish might have a very specific style of idiocy. You know, it's like he's a trademarked idiot. You know, he's an idiot, but with a trademark. So he doesn't want the others to find out. So he changed his name to a bar. Like, how would this process even work? A friend comes over to your house and as a practical joke, does you the favor of changing your account name into a barcode. Oh, he got me good. And then not changing it back yourself. Like every season you just get a name change, I'm pretty sure. So you can just change it back. This legitimately sounds like one of the worst excuses that I heard in my entire life. But let's not, let's not focus too much on that. We're here to watch a Terran versus Protoss, where this Protoss with Psionic Mastery and Observers shows the true imbalanced phase of Protoss. Much clearer than has ever been shown before, just anywhere, not just in this series, but just worldwide. That is Bobfish's claim. So far, this game is actually looking like a game. We have a single barracks, single gas, Reaper expansion coming out. Okay, well, the first 2 minutes were solid. Now we're following this up with a reactor. So this is either going to be a 3... No, okay. No, he messed up his build. So let me explain this real fast. If you open up with a single gas Reaper expansion, if you want to follow this up with a factory, you'll play Reaper into Marine factory. That way you can still get a reasonably quick factory because you're cutting out the 50 gas of the reactor. Now, what Blobfish or our barcode is doing here is playing a Reaper single gas expansion into reactor. So that can only lead to barracks focused builds, otherwise your factory is delayed for no reason, or into a triple CC. But then here Blobfish takes a second gas. Taking a second gas when playing 3 racks or triple CC is entirely pointless because you're just going to be floating gas. So in a way, he did the early game correct by getting a reactor if you wanted to play triple CC. But then the second gas makes no sense. So we're just going to be seeing a lot of gas flowing. Another thing that worries me is that I believe that this command center, this third command center, was like a response to something. That's not really how triple CC builds work usually. You can't do it as a response to something. That's the plan from the start. Because otherwise that would be the excuse. Like, oh, I scouted my opponent's natural, then I threw down the third CC. That's why I took the second gas first. But that doesn't make... Oh, now he's getting a factory. Okay, this build is starting to make less and less sense the further we get into it. He's just mixing lots of concepts together until it doesn't work at all anymore. Like this... Like... Okay, imagine you're at a restaurant, okay? Imagine you're at a restaurant and you're reading the menu and it says the chef special. Okay, so you're a risky guy. You're an adventurous person. You order the chef special. Okay, chef special comes out under one of these things, on the plate, and the waiter takes off the thing. I'm not even sure what it's called. The thing covering the cover takes off the cover and boom, says, "Sir, for you, I have here a sandwich de la tarte. It is sandwich with poop on top of it." Now, first of all, this isn't a real meal, or if it is a meal, it shouldn't be a real meal. Second of all, the moment you open a sandwich, you realize that the la tarte portion, the poop on the sandwich, has been burned as well. So not only is this a build that doesn't exist, it is also a sandwich that doesn't exist. It's also a sandwich that has been ruined due to the preparation. And it's the same here. Triple CC, double gas into factory doesn't exist. But even if it did exist, this has been one of the worst executions imaginable. Like, I could have played this build, which once again is not a build, it's a terrible build. But if this were a build and you told me, hey, play this because you're an idiot, I said, okay, I can do that. I would have done this way, way quicker. I would have had a faster factory, a faster third CC. I would have had less money in the bank. I would already have 3 barracks up at this point while still having my factory and starport as well. And I would not be floating. Well, I don't even mind the mineral floating, that just shows poor macro, but the gas floating is what really gets me. Because that gas is all from that second gas that was necessary. And I'm also completely lacking the understanding to why we need 2 more gases right now. Like, are we banking for the future? What is the entire plan here? This is something I would expect perhaps in the Bronze or the Silver League, where people, they generally like battle cruisers, which require a lot of gas. This is not what I expect at 3.9k MMR. Actually, at a guy that claims to be 4.5k MMR, if both Zerg and Protoss weren't so freaking broken. Like, look at this gas management. What are we... This is a guy that's going to be making mainly Marines and Marauders, mineral-heavy units. In which case, you want to focus mainly on mineral mining. We're spending so many resources, or we're losing resources while mining this gas. That could have been just gathering minerals, adding extra barracks a lot quicker as well. This has been a terrible start. Stim hasn't started yet, 5 minutes and 30 seconds in. Combat Shield hasn't started yet, 5 minutes and 30 in. At the same time, we're taking a look at this Protoss player, and is this the best build order I've seen in my life? No. But does it resemble a build order? Yeah. And actually, this Protoss player... Oh my god, he hasn't scouted the third. Okay, I was gonna say, if he has scouted the third, this actually is kind of cool. But he did all of this blind, which is a little bit less cool. He's a fast charge. He's gonna get at least 1 Colossus out. That's something. Not as huge a fan of this as I thought I was gonna be. But then again, I hate Bobfish's build even more. Bobfish, however, is fairly equal in workers because it did open up with triple CC, and his opponent is afraid of probing or is forgetting that probing is a possibility as well as Protoss. So despite Bobfish's failures as as a build order crafter, as a build order executor, he's still in an absolutely playable position here. And the funny thing is, here we can truly see whether he would have been 4.5k MMR or not. Nothing has happened in this game. He hasn't been pushed, and I think his supply and his setup for this phase of the game, given how greedy he played, is not very good at all. I think this is actually fairly mediocre. The position should have been much, much better. In an unchecked game, a 4.5k player, it's not going to be exactly the same as a Grandmaster, but it's going to be pretty close because it's just been unchecked, right? So you have nothing to do but just macro. And often 4.5k players are capable of macroing. So the claim of being 4.5k, to me, doesn't feel entirely accurate here. It really does not. Second starport here is being added on. We have a double reactor follow-up here rather than reactor tech lab. So we're going to go for triple reactor. Heavy marine focus coming out of Bobfish over here, which I'm not entirely sure if is smart. If you see that your opponent open up with Phoenixes, hasn't seen the robotics facilities yet, but you can kind of expect there to be some type of splash. And then focusing this heavily on marines. Look at this. Basically 8 minutes in, there's 3 Marauders and 4 tanks. Very nice fight out of the toss. I think these tanks got to shoot 3 times total. Look at, I just kind of want to look at the setup here of this 4.5k player, okay? Look at just the brilliance of how he decides to engage, okay? Been preparing for 8 minutes for this push. 8 minutes for this push. Has a Reaper still alive, could use that for scouting. Has Marines that could be sent forward with Stim to check the position. Does he have scans available? Let's just have a quick check. So there's no scan available here, no scan available here. Actually, it's going to get 1 scan over here. So has a scan available, 1 scan available as well right now. Now, we are walking up ramp. He scouts with the Reaper as well. Scouts with the Reaper, sees this army, charging in forward. And then still goes in. I just want you all to just understand what happened here. Is that I thought he didn't check with the Reaper. I actually thought he didn't check with the Reaper, but he saw everything. He sees his opponent's army, sees the Zealots. Now, any Terran with a brain here would siege up at least 2 out of the 4 tanks, but most of the time, all of them. You're gonna siege up all of them, scan forward to get a complete overview of the situation. Don't forget, he hasn't scouted anything. Our Terran player has legitimately 0 information. This could be a player sitting on 3 bases on 2 gas, or it could be someone on 6 gas. It could be someone on 5 bases if these bases have been taken. So many different scenarios could have been played here. There could be Templar, there could be Colossus, there could be nothing of the sort, and this army could suck. Either way, you want to get that information while you're in a safe position, sieging up. Instead, what does he do? He tries to move on top of a ramp where there's Colossus waiting. Phoenixes lift all of these tanks, which means that not a single tank shot is going to go down until the fight is pretty much over. I actually believe that if Bobfish had been sieged up ahead of this fight, he probably would have been capable of winning here. He actually probably would have been capable of winning. Because even now, despite this god-awful engagement, with these tanks not doing anything, not using their 13 range, because the entire time he was busy sieging up or flying in the air. Also, by the way, no target fire on the Phoenixes while lifting these tanks. It's a mistake. That is definitely a mistake. This has been very poorly played so far. However, still in a playable position. Now, do I like the fact that we have triple reactors and all we can build is freaking Marines and 2 Marauders at a time? No, I don't like that. Do I like the fact that we haven't started our 2-2 the moment that our armory finished up, despite also having the money in stock? No, I don't like that. Do I like this forward base? Yeah, I think that's a good call. I think we should probably send another SCV over, a couple of Marines to guard it. Do we need a Ghost Academy as well? Do we want mines, perhaps? Do we really believe that tanks are going to be the answer? I think no. I don't like a lot of things in this game, but despite all of that, I still think we're in a somewhat playable position here. I actually do believe so, because we have double starports. Not a huge fan here of the SCV move-in. This was This was maximizing pain, you know? This was legit. This is someone that wants to get tortured. Look at this fight here once again. Just this is phenomenal play. This really is phenomenal play. Just look at how this is set up, okay? So all of these zealots pretty much go down before the fight. All that is remaining are these colossus. Okay, all that's remaining are these colossus. You have enough marauders to clear these colossus by themselves, and probably wouldn't lose a single marauder if you sent all 7 forward here. Instead, what we do is we send the SCVs in. The toss targets down the SCVs, and actually now targets on the marines as well, and thus gets the maximum efficiency on these colossus possible in this situation. So where this should have been an absolutely winning fight, now it turned into a fight where our Terran player, if the Terran doesn't get something out of this in the next 25 to 30 seconds, is actually just behind economically because he decided, that's the correct term here, decided to lose 25 SCVs or 20 SCVs for no apparent reason except that he didn't want them anymore or couldn't judge the fight. Like, kind of disappointing. Just a little bit disappointed. That's we're here with a kind of quickish move out as a follow-up. Gonna just move across the map. The army at home is probably big enough to hold this, isn't it? 26 marines, 8 marauders. Yes. Once again, marines tanking the colossus shots in front, pretty much the opposite of what you want. Marauders should be tanking, marines should be in the back, trying to deal with any zealots that run in. Then marauders can kill both the stalkers and the colossus. So this fight is probably gonna be better than the previous fight, despite there being 30 less marines. You see that? These marauders by themselves killed more than when the 20 marines walked in the colossus there initially. Isn't that quite something? And now the game is looking extremely bad, honestly, for a Terran, who still hasn't built anything but tanks that have just been running unsieged into the opponent. No ghost, so no splash whatsoever. Like, legitimately, this is always just mind-boggling to me, is that when I watch Terran players that seemingly have more than 3 brain cells, not ever throw down a Ghost Academy against Protoss. Despite with Ghost, you're legit just... It is so sick how good EMP is against Protoss. Like, it's so good. It is... This is like buying a car with no wheels and then complaining that it doesn't drive very fast. That's what you do when you're complaining about Terran while not building Ghost. Like, it just makes no sense. It's like, yeah, you're gonna be losing more fights without the Ghost. Just like you're gonna be losing a lot of races if you don't have any wheels on your car. You might occasionally win. How, I'm not sure. You're gonna have to use some alternative mechanism. Maybe if you knock the other guy out before the race starts and you have a chance. Like 4 guys pushing your block. But you're just making life really difficult for no reason. And then the excuse that Terran players use is that Ghosts require a separate control group. And the funny thing there is that A, they're self-reporting the fact that they only use a single control group or just F2. And second of all, it's not even true. Basically, all top Terran players just use a single control group to control their units. They have extra control groups for drops, but most of the time the Ghost, Viking, Marine Marauder is all in one control group, and they use just box selecting or double clicking or control clicking on individual units to control them or tabbing through them. So it is basically fake on both accounts, which is once again fantastic. Now, this army does look pretty big. It's once again fairly marine heavy due to the triple reactors that we had. these storms are once again. I just want to again just kind of stress like how poor the setup for these fights is for someone that hopefully had a scan. He had no scans. No, he had a scan available. Once again, had a scan available. Scouted with a Marauder forward towards the right side. So in the head somewhere, there was the understanding that you need to figure out what your opponent has before you run in. But he sent this Marauder to the spot where he wasn't even attacking himself. That makes no sense. That's like booking a hotel in Rome when you're on your way to Oslo. Like, why would you do that? No GG. Fantastic. This is one of those games where I seriously wonder if this Terran A, has a brain, and B, watch back this replay. Because I can't imagine watching back this replay and thinking to yourself, you know what really was the issue here? Protoss. He also complained about observers. Did we even have a single observer this entire game? There was one observer. I have no clue when or how or why it died, but I don't think that observer was the issue. Like, the issue here was very simple to me. The issue is that Protoss crafted an army that made sense. Immortals, Colossus, Storm, there even is a Disruptor in here as well, and always was in position to fight properly. The Terran accidentally stumbled into fights without weapons. It's like falling into the gladiator arena, you know, and you're naked, you have nothing, no weapons, and the other guy's like the sword and the shields, been training for this for months. And you're just kind of, like, you see all the guys on the stands going, you know, the thumbs up, the thumbs down, that type of stuff. That's kind of what it felt like for this Terran. This Terran was just kind of tumbling into fights accidentally every single time, unprepared, no proper army, no splash. Late on the upgrade, it was up 1-1 versus 0-1. Armory finished before his opponent started his +1 attack, I'm pretty sure. And yet now we're in a situation where 2-2 has finished before 1-1. This makes absolutely no sense. So I'm just going to put all of that together. Early game execution was god-awful. I'd give that a 1 out of 5 stars. The macro was pretty freaking terrible as well. 2 out of 5 stars. The unit control was non-existent. The splash, non-existent. And then when it comes to changing your name, the excuse was also fairly poor. And we put all of that together, my dear friend. And not only do you suck at the game, you also suck at excuses. So you just suck. And that is just the way that it is. All right. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Is It IMBA or Do I Suck? If you did enjoy this, don't forget to hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Hopefully I'll see all of you next time for a new video. Thanks. And bye-bye.